And we welcome on New Jersey State Climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson to recap the February and winter that was. And you know what? When I think about this past winter, Dr. Robinson, it really felt like winter. Like, I was thinking about this today. We're recording on March 4th. Like, it never really felt like any kind of January thaw or like a big warm stretch. It really felt like a nice winter. And I like winter, so I said nice. Some people might not like it, but I said nice. What about you? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, it was a winter where it felt like you were in the midst of winter. Sure, it was warm the last week of February when we got into the 60s, but it had been a long time since we had been at that level.
Yeah.
So each month was below normal, and it's been 10 years since every winter month, December, January, and February, that is, were below normal. So it was that persistence of the cold, and we never got, as you mentioned, real warm. The South did okay with snow. Central
Yeah.
and North Jersey, half of where we should be for an entire winter, and it still could snow for the
Yeah.
next month.
That is correct.
Yeah, so and there was ice boating on the Navasink for a week or
Yeah.
two. People got out on ponds for a little while skating, and yeah, so it was no blockbuster storms,
Yeah.
except maybe if you live in Cape May, you might
Yeah.
say it was a blockbuster storm or two. But persistent kind of nuisance
Yeah.
snow and ice events from time to time, nuisance weeks of very cold weather, a lot of wind,
Yeah.
a lot of wind this winter. So yeah, winter.
Yeah. Winter. Yeah. It felt like winter.
Yeah.
I remember. So I teach a drone class at Ocean or Kane University. I'm no distinguished professor like you. I'm just a lowly adjunct. But there's a big pond when you go into Kane, and it was frozen for like from the time the semester started until like 2 weeks ago. It was just frozen. Like, and even though temperatures were in the 40s, it was still just so the ice was so thick. It was around for a while. So we'll get into that, but let's just talk about the winter that was. We'll talk about February, of course, and let's start off with our temperatures here. Like you said, it was our coldest in 10 seasons here. Every month, like you said, was below average, and that's below, and we're going to talk about this, the 91 to 2020 average. When we talk about averages, we are usually talking about a 30-year average. That's the accepted climatological norm, we should say, for what the normals are, or the averages are. But, you kind of have to take this with a little bit of a caveat, because as cold as it felt, when you look at the whole period of record, and you have records back to 1895, this pretty much was average, right?
Yeah, it sat about in the middle. We don't have the final numbers yet, but there have been about half the winters have been warmer, half colder. But as you mentioned, that's exceptional for this day and age because so often we've been ranking near the top 10th for warmth for every month
Yeah.
and even for years, for the years. This 3 month period of below normal temperatures is the first time in almost a decade, and I think maybe it was 2017 or 18. We had 3 consecutive months of below normal temperature. It's been that long. And remember, before these 3 consecutive months of below normal temperature, we had 12 in a row above normal, going back to December of 2023 through November of 2024.
Right.
That's what, again, made it feel on the colder side. But in reality, and even our coldest of the cold, those sub-zero nights, and we had some of them, there were a few that were pretty impressive,
Yeah.
but we've well surpassed those in the past.
Yeah. And just to expand upon that, Northwest New Jersey, right? There were a couple of nights that were in the negative teens and 20s. Was that January? I think that was
Yeah, that
January.
was January. We
Yeah,
had
January.
18 below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's freaking cold, right? And even in the Pine Barrens, I believe we got down below zero in a few spots at times. And that's good news from the standpoint of, I believe, killing the southern pine beetle, which is an invasive species. And we haven't done that kind of solid below zero temperature maybe since 2017, 18. I don't have those numbers on me.
Yeah,
But
that would be it. That would probably be it.
yeah,
We had that end of December, early January cold. It's just a matter of how many hours were sub freezing,
right.
excuse me, sub zero.
Right.
um, that may have impacted the
Yeah.
ability of the southern pine beetle to winter over. Because what's interesting is the coldest winter temperatures have gotten warmer at a faster rate than the average winter low temperatures. So it is exceptional to see sub-zero temperatures in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just to what we were talking about also, I know from the coastal area and Atlantic City International Airport, we did not break any cold temperature records, right? Atlantic City International didn't. The co-op station in Long Branch Oakhurst did not. Atlantic City Marina did not. Lower Township did not. Those are the main stations. Estelle Manor, which is in rural Atlantic County, they actually did have a tie for the coldest high temperature one day in February. I'm sorry, it wasn't a tie. They broke it by 1 degree, but that was it. I don't know the rest of the state as well. Was it kind of the same thing? We didn't really break any cold temperature records there.
Correct, correct. I mean, sometimes these days we're 10 degrees above the previous record lows.
Right.
Um, but we had a couple of those episodes and they persisted for a few days each. So that, kept people, and there was some snow on the ground for some of them in the south and longer snow and ice in the north. So it had that winter feel,
Yeah.
as we were saying.
Yeah.
But for those of us who were around when it was those days were really cold,
Not you.
there was nothing. Yeah, hardly. It was exception. There's nothing exceptional about it,
Yeah.
frankly.
Just like real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, what's a really cold winter in New Jersey like? Like, if we're talking, what would be a record cold winter in New Jersey generally, if you could paint the picture for us?
Yeah, it would be something that would end up in the 8 to 10 degrees below normal
Right.
for the whole period of
Yeah.
record. And we're talking a couple degrees below normal for
Yeah.
the 91 to 2020 means,
Right.
which evaporate to not below normal compared to the past.
Right.
So we've had some of those winters where it's averaged in the low 20s for the winter up in the northern part of the state and the mid and upper 20s in the south.
Yeah.
And now we're talking around the freezing point or higher in the
Right.
south.
And that
Uh,
average is another average of the high and low temperatures. So, you're talking your average high, I'm just throwing it out there, could be 35 all winter long. Your average low is what, 15, 17 at the coast. That's even for short areas, let alone you go further inland. So it was just to kind of tie this in a bow. It was cold for recent memory. It was more just in the run of the mill kind of things when it came to the whole period of record. Just a little, side note on that too. Ice on the bays was pretty prevalent. That was the most, just going off my eyes since late 2017, early 2018. I have some numbers here from the United States National Ice Center, which is, I believe, part of NOAA, right? Part of NOAA, a National Ice Center.
Navy NOAA. It's Navy NOAA.
Navy now. Okay. On January 24th, most of the Delaware Bay had a total ice concentration of 90%. And even on the Atlantic Ocean side, there was ice in the bays like that. And really from January until like the third week of February, you could bet that there was some ice along the immediate bays of bay shores on the Delaware Bay. And then even going, on those really colder stretches, that's when we saw ice protruding, deeper into the water. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that. Anything historical on that?
No, it was, northern Chesapeake Bay had some ice too. I just saw something today with the Great Lakes have had a very cold winter and a lot of snow. Part of the reason a lot of snow is because the waters were so warm that they fed the moisture into snowfall, lake effect snows. And while it got cold and Erie pretty much froze over, the ice covers about half of normal
Yeah.
this cold winter. And it's not just a function of the temperature of the air, it's a function of how warm the waters were going into the winter and how reluctant those waters are to release that warmth.
Yeah.
They released a lot of moisture, which resulted in a lot of the lake effect snows. So a very interesting winter around the Great Lakes. But again, nothing exceptional at all when it comes to the ice cover.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. All right, let's talk about the other big topic this winter. That's drought. Now, as we said many times, you have a large role, outsized role. What word do we want to use on what the drought status is in New Jersey? Being a part of the team that actually works with the United States Drought Monitor to monitor progress. And I looked at November 29th, which was the last drought monitor update before climatological winter, December, January, February, and then what we had last Thursday, which was the 27th, I think. I'm looking at my calendar over here. And we did see some easing of drought in the northern half of the state. But all of New Jersey is still in drought, and southeastern New Jersey, Cape, Atlantic, Cumberland, Southern Ocean remain in that extreme drought for three. And it's been more than 3 months, but let's just say all winter long they were in that extreme drought here. So when you and I spoke in November and December, I think we both agreed and we both said that we're going to need a lot of water this winter to pull out of it. We kind of got it, but now we're getting into spring.
Yeah, it's not produced as the way it should have. I mean, January was the third driest January in 131 years in New Jersey. November and December were below average precipitation, but kind of close to normal. And now it's neck and neck whether February was above or below normal. There are some early indicators that the state had above normal precip, but the first release of what will be the formal numbers from the National Centers for Environmental Information are half an inch lower than what some of the other estimates are and have us below normal for precip for February. We did have enough at this time of the year when evaporation rates are very low to back off a little bit on the drought categorizations. Most of North Jersey went into moderate drought, and that even went down the turnpike to about Philly. And we backed off a couple of weeks ago with the extreme drought in the southeast, backed it into the area you just mentioned. It had been up into Monmouth County and further up into Burlington and further west in South Jersey. But having said all that, we haven't had appreciable rain in 2 weeks. And with that, the northern highlands into northwest Jersey are getting teetering on going from, they're in D2 now, and they may go to D3 if they don't see some rain soon and join the southeast. And the rest of the state is likely to go back to D2 next week if this storm we're expecting, and by the time people listen to this, we'll know whether we get that inch of rain on Wednesday into Thursday. Yeah. If not, we're going to see renewed deterioration because we're worried about there's been wildfires and it's going to start warming up. And we've talked about this before. Winter drought is sneaky. It was cold. We had snow events. We had some snow on the ground for days at a time. And you don't think about drought. We've continued to think some about drought because the fall was so exceptionally dry. If the fall hadn't been that dry, we wouldn't have noticed that December, January, and February were at or just below normal precip-wise. The groundwater in the south takes a long time to replenish itself, and that's the major reason why the southeast is in a worse drought categorization right now than the rest of the state. They've had about the same amount of precipitation as the rest of the state this winter, but it takes a while to replenish that groundwater, and that's all part of the equation that goes into determining the drought ranking for a particular area at any given time. So a lot of concern. We talked at the beginning of the winter. We had plenty of time to replenish that groundwater and fill our rivers and fill our reservoirs. That window of opportunity before we get to the water consumption season for humans and plants, that window is closing. It's still open. It's still open March, April. But once we get into May and June, when the evaporation starts exceeding precipitation, and when people start throwing water on their lawns and their gardens, and the trees and the grasses start sucking up that moisture, we could be in a heap of trouble.
I just want to make a point with the drought. I should have said this in the beginning. The drought monitor, D1 is moderate drought, D2 is severe drought, D3 is extreme drought, and then D4 is exceptional drought. Nowhere's in an exceptional drought. Could you briefly explain what the differences are between a D1, D2, and D3? You're laughing at me. Can we do it in like 45, 60 seconds? Is it possible?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I don't like the terminology, and I fought the
Yes,
National
I know
Drought
that.
Mitigation Center for years since I
Yeah.
was involved with the development of the U.S. Drought Monitor at the turn of the century. I've still battled. Even the director of the lab is a good friend of mine, and it's recurring. I don't like that we go from abnormally dry to moderate dry and then to whatever severe. But think of it in time scales. The D1 has a return period about every 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
D2 is every 10 to 20 years. D3, which the Southeast is in, is every 20 to 50 years. So I consider that a once or twice per generation
Right.
situation. So look at it in those terms. It becomes more exceptional in that it happens much less often. Call them what you want.
Right.
How's that? Maybe a minute, not
Yeah,
30.
I think that's not bad. Just with the D3 though, the extreme drought, like what does that mean actually? What does that realistically mean to the people,
Well,
to
that
people in
means
the area?
you've got stream flows, you got soil moisture, you've got aquifer levels, you have reservoir levels that are not seen very often,
Right.
and therefore they put a stress on wildlife, on biota, on water supply issues. All of those things come into play that raise the seriousness of the situation such that restrictions in the use of water have to be considered.
Right. Okay. All right, we're going to take a break here. We talked about a lot in the first half. We'll come back to you. We'll talk about some snow. We'll talk about lack of coastal flooding this winter and a little bit more here. We'll be right back with you with our monthly weather roundup. We're covering Jersey Shore weather like nowhere else. Hey everyone, I'm Chief Meteorologist Joe Martucci here at Triax 57. And now we're in a new era covering Jersey Shore weather from Sandy Hook all the way down to Cape May. Yeah, Joe! What's up? And that's what I'll be doing for you at Triax 57 because I live here at the shore. This is home. New Jersey's home. I went to Rutgers University, earned a degree in meteorology, and has been certified twice by the American Meteorological Society for both broadcast and digital work. And we know what happens at the shore. Our weather's just a little bit different than the rest of the state. We get sea breezes, coastal flooding, the brunt of those nor'easters, and of course, those beautiful summer days. So stream Triax57.com for your Jersey Shore news, weather, and more. And I'll be here keeping you updated around the clock all year long. All right, and we are back with our monthly weather roundup. Remember, you could check out new episodes right around the turn of every month, and we are joined with Dr. Dave Robinson, New Jersey State Climatologist, my birthday buddy and weather dad. It is our birthday climatological season now, Dr. Robinson, May 13th. That is climatological spring, like it is in March.
Absolutely correct. And please don't remind me.
I will not remind you. We're going to turn to snow. How about that?
There we're talking.
You like snow. The South won again on February 11th and 12th. It was another South Jersey snow special where Cape May and Atlantic County saw 4 to 8 inches of snow. I don't have the numbers on me right this second, but you have them.
I do.
You do. But the northern half, you up in Somerset County, wasn't even snowing. Barely snowed, right?
Yeah, I think it was an inch and a half.
That's nothing compared to Cape May, they got. But tell us about that and just explain, this is our second one, and this was our second one this winter that was like that.
Yeah, I have numbers by counties. Cape May County, Cape May itself had 8.8. Summers Point in Atlantic County had 8.1 for the most. Stafford Township and Toms River, 5.5, and Ocean was the most,
Yeah.
and Howell, 4.3 up in Monmouth.
Right.
Um, and that was the way it kind of went. Now, that was a stealth snow, as I call it, because if you didn't look quick enough, it was gone.
Oh yeah.
Unlike the January 6th snow that hung around for 2 weeks, this one was wiped out in about 48 hours.
Yeah.
But nice while it was there.
Yeah.
It was the nature. And then there was one a week or two after that that gave Norfolk, Virginia,
Yes.
a foot
Oh
of
yeah.
snow. And
We'll
then
talk about that.
throw in the New Orleans storm in January. It's been a season of what we call zonal flow. The storms have come across the country in narrow bands, as they usually do, and oftentimes they'll redevelop off the East Coast and make a left turn and come up the coast as a coastal storm or a nor'easter. They couldn't make that left turn this year, so far at least. We were teased, and you know more about that than I, a couple weeks ago. And so once again, the Delmarva got it up into South Jersey. Then it was it was the Tidewater region 2 weeks later. And that's just been the nature of these storms. They've come either up into New England and gone out, or they've gone through southern Jersey and out. And therefore, central and northern Jersey are running about half of normal snowfall for the season. And South Jersey has had about an average year of snow, if not another flake falls.
But we're not expected to see, let's assume March is average snowfall even. We're not expected to have anywhere in the southern part of the state have more snow than the northern part of the state.
It's going to be close.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I stand
Here's the
corrected.
numbers so far this winter. Our top lower township observer in Cape May has had 17.5,
Wayne Roop. Shout out to Wayne Roop.
and Summers Point has had 15.8 to top Atlantic. Jackson 14.5. Oh, excuse me, 11.5. Boy, if I can read my own handwriting, 11.5. And then Upper Freehold, 12.3. I'm up in Somerset County. I've had about 13 inches. Most and the normal for the whole winter is closer to 30. So Central and North Jersey is about 50% normal, except far northwest where they had 20 inches in November from
Yeah.
that storm. They're still running below normal up at High Point. But you get down below the Atlantic City Expressway in the southeast, not the
Yeah.
southwest, and you've had a normal, maybe slightly above normal
Right.
annual snowfall so far. So, and that may beat out some areas at the end of the winter in central and northeast Jersey.
Right. Okay. All right. And I should have been more clear. I meant because remember a few winters ago, Galloway had the most snow in the entire state. We're not looking to see that, right? They're not going to have more snow than Northwest New Jersey. But to your point, there will be places in Atlantic and Cape May County that see more snow than, like you said, Somerset County or Northeast New Jersey.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not
Gotcha.
that big a difference.
Okay.
So anyway, part of that wintry feel we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Part of that wintry feel. I just want to go off on a quick tangent about what happened the week after, or what didn't happen the week after, and that was a nor'easter that brought a good amount of snow to Norfolk, like you said, Virginia Beach. They had Eastern North Carolina. They had good snow. We did not. Now, I feel like this was the most I ever got text messages a week before this nor'easter saying, Joe, are we getting 15 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow? My app said this. Okay, look, apps are fine 75% of the time. All right, if it's a benign, quiet weather pattern, yeah, who cares if it's 56 or 59? Okay, I get it. But when you have something like this that's sensitive and it's a high impact event, just like you call the 1-800 number to talk to a human, not the prompts on your phone, you want to make sure you're talking with a meteorologist when you're getting into these kind of situations. Because what happened the following week? Nothing. We barely had snowflakes in Cape May. Now, hand up, I did think on Monday, the storm was Wednesday night, and my first snow map, we were going to see some snow in Atlantic and Cape May County and even a coating up to Monmouth, but my highest contour was 3 inches. So at that point, we were not talking 12 to 15. So I just want to say that because let's all next time we get, there's something brewing there. Let's just take a chill pill for a little bit. Let's take a chill pill for a couple of days.
You and some other professional meteorologists handled it well. I think the National Weather Service in Mount Holly was forced essentially to put out a statement about that earlier than they normally would. But that's the nature of the free availability of these weather models these days. And they're so good that there's some semblance of reality to them.
Yeah,
And indeed, there was a storm.
there was.
It just didn't make the left turn. And here we thought that maybe the atmosphere had set up all the way from the Arctic down into North America, had set up a pattern that was going to help turn that storm up the coast. And it simply didn't. And it was impossible to know that for sure until several days before the event when the models were already starting to say, and now in the past, that's when people would start talking about it.
Right.
So where you meteorologists are suffer from the fact that the models have gotten better and that they're so widely available that you have to now go and cover yourself a week in advance.
Yeah.
The fact is, these models are good enough to identify the storm, but not within 100 miles or 200 miles, 7 days in advance.
Yep. My point exactly. I wrote this in a Sure Local weather column. I was like, at a global model, which is where you're looking a week in advance for these storms, a global forecast model, to them, 150 miles is nothing in the scan of the earth, right?
We're talking about storms that are out in the Pacific Ocean still. And they're just, the models are so good. They look at the dynamics downstream and say that impulse coming out of the Pacific Ocean just might be strong enough to throw a big storm across the country.
Yep.
And then when it gets to the Atlantic coast, oh, it's going to make that left turn up the coast.
Yep.
I mean, so, you're victims of your own success.
That's right. We're too good. Exactly. All right, let's last topic. We have about 70 seconds here, but I don't think we need to talk much about it. And the good news, coastal flooding. We haven't seen much in February, and we haven't seen much this winter, and I think the Jersey Shore is very happy for that.
Very much so. I mean, we even had an absence of water in the middle of the month with blowout tides with 50 and 60-mile-an-hour winds pushing the water out of the bays. No, this was a good season so far. You can have late season nor'easters. But in terms of the retention of the sand on the beaches and the lack of disruptive flooding in the back bays, this has been a very welcome respite over this winter. And by the way, I will give climatologists credit here.
There you go.
Looking at La Nina patterns, and I might have been on a tape here saying at the beginning of the winter or this fall, it's going to be a La Nina winter, and it's tough to have coastal storms.
You did.
Tend not to have them in La Nina winters. The storms go through the Great Lakes, or they certainly don't take that turn up the coast. Now, La Nina is weakening. Does that open the door to some late season nor'easters? Yeah, perhaps. But there's no surprise on my account that we did not have an active nor'easter winter.
Gotcha.
But once in a while, even the climatologists get it right.
That's right. God, No, you guys always get it right. You guys are always looking backwards, not forwards, right? So it's always right there.
Well, we get it right. Hopefully people will forget that we made a wrong forecast. You have to be accountable day to day.
That's true. That's true. All right. Anything we missed that you want to touch on quickly?
No, I think we just alluded to winds at the end. And the one thing that's going to stay in my memory for this winter is how very windy it was. Not from a nor'easter, but by the fact we were often wedged between those storms to the south or a storm to the north and high pressure to the north or high pressure to the south. So we were in that tight gradient. So we saw a lot of wind, but it wasn't from a major storm sitting on top of us. It's from the fact that we were squeezed between storms and high pressure systems time and again this winter. So a lot of wind.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a lot of wind. All right, we are going to wrap it up here. Tell everybody where they can follow the latest in New Jersey, current conditions for weather, climatology, and more.
Follow our state climate office, njclimate.org. But for the latest from our weather network, njweather.org. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say March is our CocoRoz recruitment month nationwide. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in becoming involved and becoming a citizen scientist and contributing precipitation information to go on to njclimate.org, and you'll see a screen, a button that you can click on for the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network, this national citizen science group that many of you listening, no doubt, and thank you, are already participating in.
Absolutely. We love all of our Coco Ross volunteers, and we're going to hope for even some more as we go into March.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to wrap it up for this month. We will be back with you sometime at the very end of March or very beginning of April to recap the month of March. Hopefully that coastal flooding stays away, and hopefully we get some more rain between now and then too. So until then, everyone, take care, and thanks as always for listening to the Monthly Weather Roundup here on Tri-X 57.